Shark attacks are rare but increasing, often due to mistaken identity, poor visibility, or curiosity. Limited shark vision means humans can resemble prey, especially in murky waters or near seal colonies. Understanding these factors helps prevent attacks. Despite fears, sharks are crucial for marine ecosystems. Here are 6 shark attack stories. The Radcliffe family's beach day had started like any other sunny July morning in Santa Cruz, California, in 2012. Thomas Radcliffe had been taking his son Shane, 14, to the public beaches along Monterey Bay every summer since Shane was a toddler. They loved the ocean, building sandcastles, playing frisbee, and soaking up the warm coastal sunshine. The weather was perfect this Thursday, sunny, 75 degrees with a light ocean breeze. The Radcliffes arrived at Monterey State Beach around 10 a.m. and began setting up their spot. Shane buried himself in the sand while Thomas fired up the portable grill for lunch. After 2 hours of playing in the waves and tanning, they ate burgers and hot dogs. Shane begged to go back into the ocean to body surf. Thomas cautioned him to stay near the shore and get out if the waves got too big, or he saw any marine life more considerable than a seagull. Shane agreed and ran towards the gently crashing waves around 50 yards away. The afternoon proceeded, usually for a while, with Shane laughing and splashing in the shallows. Around 2 p.m., a commotion started happening at the lifeguard stand. The lifeguards began surveying the waters with binoculars, blowing whistles, and broadcasting evacuation messages over megaphones. They were ordering everyone out of the water immediately. Feeling a sense of dread, Thomas took off running towards the water's edge, shouting over his shoulder for Shane to swim back to him right away. Before Shane could react, a piercing scream rang out from further out in the water where a girl was body surfing. A giant shark fin and thrashing appeared near her. One of the lifeguards shouted there was a shark attack in progress. Shane froze in panic, but Thomas bellowed for him to swim towards him as fast as he could. As Shane started moving, an enormous great white shark erupted from the water between them, its gaping jaws clamping down on Shane's leg. Shane screamed in pain and terror as the shark violently whipped him through the bloody surf. Thomas plunged into the water after his son, desperately splashing towards where the shark had bitten Shane. The shark started to turn back towards the injured boy, seeing him as easy prey. Just as the massive beast began another charge, Thomas reached Shane and pulled him into his arms. Using every ounce of adrenaline-fueled strength, Thomas backpedaled and kicked away from the oncoming shark. The shark's jaws snapped shut just inches from Thomas's face, spraying him with Shane's blood. More lifeguards entered the water to distract and drive the shark away from the father and son. Thomas kept kicking towards the shore with Shane's limp body, leaving a trail of red behind them. Finally, other beachgoers reached out and pulled them the remaining few yards to the sand. Thomas collapsed on the beach, clutching Shane's mangled leg. As emergency responders rushed over, Shane was rushed to the hospital in critical condition, having lost a tremendous amount of blood from the shark bite. Doctors worked feverishly to save the teenager's life and keep him from bleeding out. After multiple blood transfusions and intensive surgery, Shane was stabilized but would require further operations and physical therapy. Over the next few months, Shane slowly recovered from his traumatic brush with death. Though he had lost part of his leg, he amazed his physicians with his resilience and determination to walk unaided again. With the support of his family, Shane pushed himself through the painful rehabilitation process. Shane delivered a defiant statement to the media 1 year later, using his prosthetic leg to walk across the stage at a charity event. He declared that though the shark attack had taken his leg, it would not take his spirit. Shane announced he planned to return to the waters of Monterey Bay that summer to overcome his fears and honor those who had saved his life that fateful day. True to his word, Shane rejoined his dad at Monterey State Beach the following season. Though apprehensive, he first ventured into the ocean, bodyboarded, and rekindled his passion for the marine environment that had once almost taken his life. From then on, Shane dedicated himself to promoting shark conservation efforts and delivering presentations to raise awareness about beach safety. The brutal attack strengthened the bond between father and son and gave them a profound appreciation for life's fragility. Though permanently marked by the scars of that nightmarish day, the Radcliffes emerged with a more profound respect and awe for the power of nature. Their story of perseverance over tragedy became a source of inspiration for many. In the summer of 2015, a team of seasoned underwater archaeologists from the prestigious Xenophon Institute embarked on an ambitious expedition off the sun-drenched shores of Santorini, Greece. Led by the renowned Dr. Eudoxia Papadopoulos, and assisted by her colleagues Dr. Zoran Markovic and Dr. Ilya Kozlov, they set out to explore the enigmatic ruins of an ancient shipwreck that had remained undisturbed for centuries. The wreck, believed to be a Roman merchant vessel from the 2nd century AD, was discovered the previous year during a routine seabed survey conducted by local fishermen. Intrigued by the potential historical significance of the find, the Xenophon Institute spent little time in assembling a team of experts to meticulously document and recover any artifacts that could shed light on the lives of those who sailed the Aegean Sea during the height of the Roman Empire. As the team's research vessel Poseidon's Trident approached the dive site, a palpable excitement filled the air. Dr. Papadopoulos, a seasoned veteran of countless underwater expeditions, briefed her colleagues on the dive plan. They would descend in pairs, with Eudoxia and Zoran comprising the first team, followed by Ilya and their junior archaeologist Phoebe Katsaros. The crystal-clear waters of the Aegean offered excellent visibility, and as the archaeologists descended, the intricate details of the wreck slowly came into view. The vessel had been remarkably well preserved, with its wooden hull and cargo hold primarily intact, save for a few breaches caused by the passage of time. As Eudoxia and Zoran began their meticulous documentation process, taking photographs and making careful notes on waterproof slates, they were oblivious to the presence of a silent observer, a massive great white shark that had taken up residence near the wreck. The shark, a formidable female measuring over 20 feet in length, had been drawn to the area by the abundance of fish and marine life that thrived among the underwater ruins. Her territory had remained undisturbed for years until the arrival of these strange visitors disrupted the delicate ecosystem she called home. At first, the shark kept her distance, content to observe the strange creatures that had invaded her domain. However, as the archaeologists continued their work, their movements and the bubbles they exhaled began to attract the attention of the smaller fish that served as her prey. Sensing an opportunity, the great white began to circle closer, her razor-sharp senses attuned to the slightest vibration in the water. Then Zoran noticed the ominous shadow lingering just beyond the periphery of their vision. Instantly recognizing the unmistakable silhouette of a giant shark, he signaled urgently to Eudoxia, and the two archaeologists immediately aborted their survey, retreating toward the safety of their dive boat. As they ascended, they caught a glimpse of the massive predator, her powerful tail propelling her effortlessly through the water. The team debated their next move on board the Poseidon's Trident. Abandoning the expedition was out of the question. The wreck held too much historical significance, and the Xenophon Institute had invested considerable resources into this endeavor. Undeterred, Eudoxia devised a daring plan. They would return to the wreck, but this time armed with a series of specialized deterrents to keep the shark at bay. Ilya and Phoebe would descend first, equipped with a powerful underwater speaker system emitting low-frequency sound waves known to deter sharks. Meanwhile, Eudoxia and Zoran would follow, carrying a potent shark repellent from a concentrated mixture of chemicals designed to overwhelm the shark's keen sense of smell. With their preparations complete, the archaeologists again entered the azure depths, their hearts pounding with anticipation and trepidation. As Ilya and Phoebe activated the sound system, the low, pulsating tones reverberated through the water, creating an invisible barrier around the wreck site. It seemed their plan had worked briefly, and the great white had been driven away. But just as the team began to relax, the unmistakable shadow appeared once more, larger and more menacing than before. Undeterred by the sound waves, the shark recognized the threat to her territory and was now thoroughly roused to defend it. With a powerful flick of her tail, she charged towards the wreck, her massive jaws agape and her rows of serrated teeth glinting in the filtered sunlight. Panic gripped the archaeologists as they scrambled to deploy the shark repellent, but the predator moved too quickly. She swept past Ilya and Phoebe in a blur of motion, her powerful tail striking Ilya's air tank and rupturing it with a sickening crack. As bubbles streamed from the ruptured tank, Ilya's eyes widened in terror. He had only a few precious minutes of air remaining. Without hesitation, Phoebe shared her regulator with her colleague, and the two began a frantic ascent towards the surface. Meanwhile, Eudoxia and Zoran found themselves trapped beneath the wreck, their path to the surface blocked by the enraged shark. With their air supplies rapidly dwindling, they realized that their only hope lay in seeking temporary refuge within the confines of the ancient ship itself. Carefully navigating the maze of sunken timbers and cargo holds, the two archaeologists found a relatively intact chamber that offered a brief respite from the circling predator. But as the minutes ticked by, their oxygen levels dropped perilously low, and the shark showed no signs of relenting. In a desperate gambit, Eudoxia retrieved a small, waterproof case from her dive bag, a device she had brought along as a last resort. Inside was a potent electrical beauty designed to temporarily incapacitate more giant marine creatures without causing permanent harm. Bracing themselves, Eudoxia and Zoran emerged from their sanctuary, the beauty gripped tightly in Eudoxia's hand. As the great white charged once more, her massive bulk filling their field of vision, Eudoxia aimed and fired. The powerful electrical current lanced through the water, momentarily stunning the shark and causing her to veer off course. Seizing their opportunity, the two archaeologists made a mad dash for the surface, their lungs burning and their limbs leaden from exertion. Just as their air supplies reached critical levels, they broke through the surface, gasping for breath and clinging to the safety line that led back to Poseidon's trident. Ilya and Phoebe, having already been retrieved by the support crew, greeted them with a mixture of relief and awe at their harrowing escape. As the team recovered from their ordeal, they knew that their encounter with the great white shark had been a sobering reminder of nature's power and majesty. Though they had emerged victorious, they had also gained a newfound respect for the delicate balance beneath the waves. Later, the Xenophon Institute's team would make numerous groundbreaking discoveries within the wreck, shedding new light on the lives of those who had traversed the ancient trade routes of the Mediterranean. But for Eudoxia, Zoran, Ilya, and Phoebe, the true treasure they had unearthed was a deeper appreciation for the incredible resilience of life itself, and the knowledge that even in the face of adversity, the human spirit could prevail. In 2009, a group of passionate environmental activists from the renowned organization Ocean Guardians embarked on a daring mission to expose the illegal fishing practices plaguing the protected waters of the Phoenix Islands, a remote archipelago in the heart of the southern Pacific Ocean. Led by the fearless Anahera Morehu and her dedicated colleagues Tomoko Nakamura and Javier Espinoza, they set sail from their base in Samoa, determined to gather irrefutable evidence of the rampant exploitation that threatened the delicate marine ecosystem. The Phoenix Islands, a breathtaking chain of coral atolls and submerged reefs, have been designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site and a strictly enforced marine protected area. However, recent reports from local fishermen and scientists indicate an alarming rise in illegal fishing vessels, many of which employ destructive practices such as bottom trawling and blast fishing. As the team's rugged research vessel, the Kaimana, cut through the turquoise waters, Anahera briefed her crew on the mission's objectives. They would conduct covert surveillance operations, utilizing state-of-the-art underwater drones and camera equipment to document illegal fishing activities. They would focus on the remote and uninhabited atolls where such operations were most likely to occur. Tomoko, a skilled marine biologist, and Javier, a former Navy diver, would deploy the underwater drones and gather crucial footage. Anahera, assisted by their seasoned first mate, Tama Viliamu, would coordinate the operation from the Kaimana's bridge. The first few days of their expedition yielded little evidence of illegal activities. Still, as they ventured deeper into the isolated reaches of the archipelago, the team began encountering disturbing signs of environmental destruction. Discarded fishing nets and lines littered the once pristine coral reefs, trapping and suffocating countless marine creatures. The waters were clouded with sediment, a telltale sign of bottom trawling. A practice indiscriminately scraped the sea floor, decimating entire ecosystems. While investigating one such trawling site, the team made a chilling discovery. Tomoko and Javier piloted their underwater drone through the murky depths. They encountered a gruesome scene, a vast array of mutilated fish carcasses and discarded remains, seemingly cast aside by the illegal fishing vessels as worthless bycatch. Little did they know that this gruesome display had attracted the attention of a deadly visitor, a massive bull shark lured by the scent of blood and the promise of an easy meal. As the drone's cameras captured the shark's ominous silhouette gliding through the debris field, a sense of dread washed over the team. Undeterred, they continued their mission, but the shark's presence grew increasingly bold and aggressive. During one harrowing encounter, the predator charged at Tomoko and Javier's dive team, forcing them to retreat hastily to the safety of the Caimana. It soon became apparent that the shark had been driven into a frenzy by the constant influx of discarded fish remains, and its natural hunting instincts had heightened to a dangerous degree. With their movements now restricted by the threat of attack, the team found themselves in a precarious position, and their ability to gather evidence was severely compromised. In a daring gambit, Anahira proposed a risky plan. They would use their knowledge of the marine environment to lure the shark away from the hotspots of illegal fishing activity, allowing them to continue their documentation efforts unimpeded. Utilizing a specialized bait cage loaded with chum, they began a carefully orchestrated campaign to draw the shark towards a remote and isolated atoll, far from the areas they needed to investigate. Slowly but surely, the strategy appeared to work as the massive predator followed the tantalizing trail of scents, its bloodlust overriding its natural wariness. However, disaster struck when a sudden storm swept through the area, tossing the Caimana like a toy and snapping the reinforced lines securing the bait cage. The cage plunged into the depths in a heart-stopping moment, taking the team's only means of luring the shark with it. Stranded and with their resources dwindling, the Ocean Guardians found themselves in a desperate struggle for survival. Now fully aroused and sensing easy prey, the shark began to circle the Caimana with increasing boldness, its massive bulk cutting through the waves like a torpedo. In a last-ditch effort, Anahira and her team devised a daring plan to repel the shark, using a combination of underwater flares and a high-frequency acoustic deterrent system. A tense silence fell over the vessel as Tomoko and Javier suited up again, preparing to deploy the deterrents. With a thunderous splash, the shark breached the surface, its gaping maw and rows of serrated teeth terrifying. Undaunted, Tomoko and Javier executed their plan precisely, detonating the flares and activating the acoustic system in a blinding display of light and sound. It seemed their gambit had failed for a moment, but miraculously, the shark veered off course, disoriented and confused by the overwhelming sensory onslaught. Seizing their opportunity, the team swiftly retrieved their colleagues and retreated from the atoll, their hearts pounding with relief and exhilaration. In the following weeks, the Ocean Guardians' daring mission yielded a treasure trove of evidence, including stunning footage of illegal fishing vessels in action and heartbreaking scenes of environmental devastation. Armed with this irrefutable proof, they launched a global awareness campaign, partnering with governments and international organizations to crack down on the lawless exploitation of the Phoenix Islands' fragile marine ecosystem. Their efforts paid off handsomely, with several primary fishing operations being shuttered and severe penalties imposed on those found guilty of illegal activities. Moreover, their harrowing encounter with the bull shark served as a sobering reminder of the delicate balance within the ocean's depths and the profound impact human actions could have on even the most fearsome predators. The Phoenix Islands mission was a defining moment, a testament to the power of courage, perseverance, and unwavering commitment to protecting the natural world. As they looked towards the future, they knew their work was far from over. Still, they were bolstered by the knowledge that those who fought for the planet's preservation could emerge victorious, despite seemingly insurmountable odds. It was a balmy summer afternoon in 2011, when Tyrone Wingarden and his lifelong friend Alicia Morhu set out on a kayaking adventure along the rugged coastline of New Zealand's Fiordland National Park. The two avid outdoorsmen had embarked on countless adventures together. Still, this excursion promised something extraordinary. the opportunity to explore the remote and largely untouched waterways of one of the world's most pristine wilderness areas. As their sleek kayaks cut through the glassy waters of Dusky Sound, the towering peaks of the Southern Alps loomed in the distance, their snow-capped summits reflecting brilliantly in the calm waters. Tyrim, a seasoned kayak guide, and Alicia, a marine biologist, had carefully planned their route, aiming to venture into the hidden coves and inlets that few had ever laid eyes upon. Hours ticked by as they paddled, the rhythmic strokes of their paddles and the gentle lapping of the waves against their hulls, the only sounds breaking the tranquil silence. Suddenly, a narrow opening in the rocky shoreline caught Tyrim's eye. A secluded cove, its entrance partially obscured by a curtain of cascading waterfalls. Exchanging an excited glance with Alicia, the two friends steered their kayaks towards the hidden inlet, their hearts racing with the thrill of discovery. As they navigated the narrow passage, the towering cliffs seemed to close around them, casting deep shadows across the water's glassy surface. Emerging into the cove, they were greeted by a breathtaking sight, a pristine, crystal-clear lagoon encircled by steep, verdant cliffs. The water was so clear that they could make out every detail of the rocky seafloor below, teeming with vibrant marine life and swaying kelp forests. Alicia was the first to notice the telltale signs of something amiss. A trail of blood and discarded fish remains leading from the mouth of the cove towards the open ocean. Her expression grew grave as she pointed out the gruesome evidence to Tyrim, her mind instantly recognizing the implications. Somewhere in these waters a large predator was lurking. As if on cue, a massive shadow glided beneath their kayaks, its bulk causing the lightweight vessels to rock precariously in the water. In that heart-stopping moment, Tyrim and Alicia came face to face with the source of their newfound terror, a colossal great white shark, its massive jaws agape and its cold black eyes fixed upon them with predatory intent. Instinctively, the two friends began paddling furiously towards the narrow exit of the cove, their kayaks slicing through the water with desperate urgency. But the shark, sensing their fear, gave chase, its powerful tail propelling it through the water with terrifying speed. As they neared the passage, Tyrim glanced back to see the great white's gaping maw mere feet away, its serrated teeth glinting in the filtered sunlight. In a split-second decision, he veered sharply to the left, using his kayak to block the shark's path and give Alicia a narrow opportunity to escape. The plan worked, and Alicia slipped through the narrow opening, her kayak scraping against the rocky walls as she emerged into the open waters of Dusky Sound. But Tyrim was not so fortunate. The massive shark slammed into his kayak with the force of a freight train, shattering the lightweight craft into splinters and sending him tumbling into the churning water. Gasping for air, Tyrim found himself treading water mere feet from the enraged predator, his heart pounding in his ears as the shark circled him, sizing up its prey. In a desperate act of self-preservation, he hurled the remains of his shattered kayak at the shark, momentarily distracting it and giving him a precious few seconds to swim toward the safety of the cove's rocky walls. Meanwhile, Alicia had doubled back, her mind racing as she formulated a daring plan to rescue her friend. Retrieving a waterproof flare gun from her kayak's emergency kit, she paddled towards the mouth of the cave, hoping to lure the shark away from Tyrim's location. As the great white turned its attention towards the bright flare sizzling on the water's surface, Alicia seized her chance. Paddling with every ounce of strength she possessed, she guided her kayak towards Tyrim's position, her eyes locked on his struggling form as he clung precariously to the jagged rocks. In a heart-stopping moment, Alicia reached out and hauled her friend into the kayak, the slender vessel rocking violently under their combined weight. But their ordeal was far from over. Enraged by the flare's intrusion, the shark had redirected its fury towards them, its massive bulk cutting through the water like a living torpedo. With adrenaline coursing through their veins, Tyrim and Alicia paddled for their lives, their kayaks slicing through the choppy waters as they desperately sought to outpace the relentless predator. Time and again, the great white would surge towards them, its gaping jaws snapping mere inches from their fragile craft, only to veer off at the last moment, biding its time for the perfect opportunity to strike. As the hours ticked by and their strength waned, the friends grew increasingly disoriented. their sense of direction lost in the labyrinth of fjords and inlets surrounding them. But just as despair began to set in, they spotted a familiar landmark in the distance, the towering peak of Mitre Peak, an iconic symbol of Fiordland National Park. With renewed determination, they paddled towards the looming mountain, using it as a guiding beacon to steer them back to the safety of the main channel. As they finally emerged from the treacherous maze of waterways, the unmistakable silhouette of their support vessel, the Kaitiaki, came into view. In a desperate final push, Tyrim and Alicia mustered every ounce of their remaining strength, their arms burning with fatigue as they paddled toward the waiting boat. As they neared the Kaitiaki's hull, the great white made one last, desperate lunge, its massive jaws snapping shut mere inches from their kayak. But it was too late. The Kaitiaki crew had witnessed the harrowing chase and swiftly hauled the battered adventurers aboard, leaving the enraged shark to circle the vessel. Its territorial rage slowly subsided as it realized the futility of its pursuit. Tyrim and Alicia's harrowing ordeal became a legend, a tale of survival and resilience in the face of nature's most fearsome predator. Their harrowing experience served as a sobering reminder of the delicate balance within the wilderness, and the profound respect that must be afforded to the creatures that call these wild places home. For Tyrim and Alicia, the nightmare in the hidden cove had forged an unbreakable bond, a shared experience that would forever unite them in their love for the great outdoors and the thrill of adventure. And though the memory of the great white's relentless pursuit would linger, it would only fuel their passion for exploration, for they knew that true adventure awaited those brave enough to seek it out in the heart of the wilderness. The year was 2013, and a group of intrepid urban explorers had set their sights on an irresistible new target: Ely's Point Lighthouse. This abandoned and decrepit structure stood sentinel over the treacherous waters of Cape Cod, Massachusetts. Led by the fearless Xavion Blackwell and his daring companions, Kelsey Wyndham and Mikael Sorensen, the trio was determined to uncover the secrets behind the lighthouse's crumbling facade. Ely's Point Lighthouse had a storied and often tragic history. It guided countless ships through the dangerous shoals and sandbars that dotted the Cape's coastline for over a century. However, with modern navigation technologies, the lighthouse fell into disrepair and was eventually decommissioned, left to the mercy of the relentless ocean winds and waves. As their boat drew closer to the isolated outcrop upon which the lighthouse stood, Xavion briefed his team on the plan. They would first explore the underwater base of the structure, utilizing their scuba gear to document any artifacts or architectural features that lay submerged beneath the churning waters. Once that task was complete, they would ascend to the lighthouse, braving the precarious exterior to access the interior and capture footage of its decaying interior. With eager anticipation, the trio donned their diving gear and slipped beneath the surface, their powerful underwater lights cutting through the murky depths like ethereal beacons. As they descended towards the lighthouse's base, a sense of awe washed over them. The structure's massive granite blocks, encrusted with barnacles and swaying kelp fronds, seemed to stretch endlessly towards the seafloor. A skilled underwater photographer, Kelsey eagerly began capturing images of the intricate stonework, her camera lens drawn to the elaborate carvings and details that the relentless tides had obscured for decades. Ever the historian, Mikael meticulously documented any artifacts or remnants they encountered, his keen eye picking out the subtlest clues that could shed light on the lighthouse's forgotten past. During one of their exploratory sweeps, Xavion noticed something amiss. A trail of blood and discarded fish remains leading from the depths toward the lighthouse's base. His brow furrowed with concern as he signaled to his teammates, and they quickly regrouped, their earlier enthusiasm tempered by a sense of unease. As if summoned by their growing trepidation, a massive shadow emerged from the gloom, its colossal bulk dwarfing their slender forms. In that heart-stopping moment, they came face to face with the source of their newfound terror, a massive great white shark, its cold black eyes fixed upon them with predatory intent. Instinctively, the trio began swimming towards the nearest visible exit, a narrow stonework gap leading to the surface. But the shark, sensing their fear, gave chase, its powerful tail propelling it through the water with terrifying speed. Kelsey was the first to reach the opening, her slender frame slipping through the gap with mere inches to spare. Mikhail followed close behind, his bulky frame scraping against the jagged edges of the stone as he hauled himself towards the surface. But Xavion was not so fortunate. Just as he neared the opening, the great white lunged, its massive jaws snapping shut mere inches from his legs. In a desperate act of self-preservation, he hurled his dive knife at the shark, momentarily distracting it and giving him precious seconds to swim toward the safety of the lighthouse's base. As Xavion broke the surface, gasping for air, he was greeted by the frantic cries of his teammates. Kelsey and Mikhail had managed to clamber onto the narrow ledge that encircled the lighthouse's base, their faces etched with fear and concern. But their ordeal was far from over. The enraged shark had followed Xavion to the surface and was now circling the structure, its massive bulk cutting through the waves like a living torpedo. With no immediate means of escape and their boat anchored too far away to signal for help, the trio was in a desperate race against time. Mikhail first spotted their potential salvation, a rusted but sturdy-looking ladder that ascended the side of the lighthouse, leading to the top. With renewed determination, the three friends began the treacherous climb, their hands and feet finding purchase on the weathered rungs as they inched their way upwards. Time and again, the great white would surge towards them, its gaping jaws snapping at their dangling limbs, only to be thwarted by the unyielding granite walls of the lighthouse. But with each passing minute, their strength waned, their muscles burning with fatigue as they hauled themselves higher and higher. Finally, as the sun began to lay below the horizon, they reached the top of the lighthouse, their bodies battered and bruised, but their spirits soaring with triumph. They could see their boat bobbing in the distance from their elevated vantage point, their crew blissfully unaware of the harrowing ordeal that had unfolded. Thinking quickly, Xavion retrieved a flare gun from his pack and fired a brilliant crimson flare into the fading light, the signal piercing the gathering darkness like a beacon of hope. Their crew spotted the distress signal within minutes and rapidly closed in on their position. As the boat drew near, the great white made one final desperate lunge towards the lighthouse, its massive jaws snapping shut mere feet from where the trio huddled. But it was too late. Their crew had witnessed the shark's attack. The great white swiftly hauled the battered explorers aboard, leaving the enraged predator to circle the lighthouse's base, its territorial rage slowly subsiding as it realized the futility of its pursuit. In the following days, Xavion, Kelsey, and Mikhail's harrowing ordeal became the stuff of legend, a tale of survival and resilience in the face of nature's most fearsome predator. Their harrowing experience served as a sobering reminder of the delicate balance within the natural world, and the profound respect that must be afforded to the creatures that call these wild places home. The ordeal at Eli's Point Lighthouse had forged an unbreakable bond, a shared experience that would forever unite them in their love for urban exploration and the thrill of discovery. Though the memory of the great white's relentless pursuit would linger, it would only fuel their passion for adventure, for they knew that in the heart of the unknown, true wonder awaited those brave enough to seek it out. The year was 2007, and it was a picture-perfect summer day in the coastal town of Newport, Rhode Island, where the prestigious Brenton Cove Yacht Club hosted its annual sailing regatta. The event, a time-honored tradition among the city's elite, drew spectators and participants from across the country, eager to showcase their skills on the open waters of Narragansett Bay. Among the competitors was Soren Beaumont, a dashing and accomplished sailor whose family had been members of the Brenton Cove Yacht Club for generations. Soren's sleek sloop, the Zephyr, was a marvel of nautical engineering, its gleaming hull and billowing sails a testament to his meticulous attention to detail. A flotilla of spectator boats trailed behind the competitors as the race commenced. Their decks were filled with the town's most affluent residents, sipping champagne and cheering on their favored sailors. Among the onlookers were Valeska Wakefield, the club's esteemed commodore, and her husband Damien, a prominent businessman with a passion for sailing. The first few hours of the race unfolded without incident, the graceful yachts carving through the gentle swells as their skilled crews tacked and jibed in pursuit of the coveted trophy. However, the winds shifted as the day wore on, and a palpable sense of unease settled over the bay. It was during one of these sudden wind shifts that disaster struck. Soren's Zephyr, caught off balance by the erratic gusts, heeled violently to one side, sending him tumbling overboard and into the churning waters. For a brief moment, stunned silence fell over the spectator fleet as they watched the scene unfold. But Valeska first sprang into action, demanding her crew to prepare a rescue launch and signal the race committee for assistance. As the rescue boat drew nearer to Soren's location, a chilling sight emerged from the depths, a massive dorsal fin cutting through the waves like a knife. In that heart-stopping moment, the spectators realized they were facing a threat far more terrifying than a simple man-overboard situation. A great white shark had been drawn to the area, its predatory instincts piqued by the commotion. Soren, treading water and struggling to stay afloat, caught sight of the ominous fin and felt a surge of adrenaline coursing through his veins. With every ounce of his remaining strength, he began swimming towards the nearest spectator boat, his limbs propelling him through the choppy waters with desperate urgency. But the shark, sensing its prey, gave chase, its massive bulk cutting through the water with terrifying speed. As the spectators watched in horror, the great white lunged towards Soren, its gaping jaws snapping shut mere inches from his flailing limbs. In a split-second decision, a former naval officer, Damian Wakefield, seized control of the situation. Barking orders to the crew, he directed them to begin pelting the shark with flares and emergency signal devices, hoping to distract the predator and buy Soren precious seconds to reach safety. Soren was hauled aboard a nearby spectator yacht, his body trembling with fear and exhaustion. But the respite was short-lived. The enraged shark, its territorial instincts fully aroused, began targeting the cluster of boats, its massive jaws snapping at the hulls and sending shockwaves through the water. Valeska Wakefield took charge as the chaos unfolded, her authoritative voice cutting through the panic like a clarion call. With swift precision, she coordinated the various crews, organizing a defensive perimeter around the stricken Zephyr, and directing the fleet to begin a slow but steady retreat toward the safety of the harbor. Time and again, the great white would surge towards the boats, its massive bulk causing the vessels to rock precariously in the water. But the combined efforts of the crews, armed with flares, horns, and makeshift deterrents, kept the predator at bay, allowing the fleet to inch ever closer to the sanctuary of the harbor. Later, the battered and weary group reached the safety of the Brenton Cove Yacht Club's docks. Soren, still shaken by his harrowing ordeal, was immediately whisked away to receive medical attention, while the spectators and crews gathered to recount the day's harrowing events. The attack became the subject of intense scrutiny and debate, with experts weighing in on the factors that may have drawn the great whites to the area. Some speculated that the commotion of the race, coupled with the presence of discarded bait and chum, had inadvertently attracted the shark's attention. For the members of the Brenton Cove Yacht Club, the incident served as a sobering reminder of the delicate balance between humanity and the natural world. While their passion for sailing remained undiminished, a newfound respect for nature's power and unpredictability had taken root. Soren Beaumont, his brush with death etched into his memory, found solace in the unwavering support of his fellow sailors and the resilience of the human spirit. And though the scars of his encounter would linger, both physical and emotional, he knew that the bonds forged in the face of adversity would endure long after the memory of the great white's terrifying visage had faded.